Hello and welcome to Sideline Story, your destination for sports news, analysis and discussions. I'm Yang Guang. This week, we take a look at the sparks Chinese player Yang Hansen has produced in the NBA Summer League and list the winners and losers in the NBA offseason trades. For this chat, I'm joined here with my fantastic co-hosts Tian Yu and Brandon Yates. Alright, Chinese center Yang Hansen has delivered some initial impressions of his basketball abilities in the first couple of NBA Summer League games. There are some flashy moments and sloppy plays that gives a general outline of what he can offer when he truly steps onto the NBA court. So Tian Yu, I believe you must have caught up with those actions. So what do you make of Yang Hansen's Summer League performance so far?
Well, honestly, I'm quite impressed, I would say. When I watch him play, I don't see a rookie coming from, thousands of miles away from overseas and landing in the NBA for the first time. Instead, he looks like a very mature player who, just already understands the game at a very high level. What stands out most to me is his basketball IQ. He's shown great adaptability and court awareness, which are rare qualities in rookie players, especially one coming from overseas. I mean, some people are already calling him the Chinese Jokic.
Right.
I mean, that might be, sounding a little bit exaggerating, but I get where it's coming from because Yang plays like a connector on the court, on the fence, just like Jokic does. He directs teammates, points out cuts, and creates spaces with his communication and movement. And that's not something you can often see from a young big man. One play that really impressed me particularly was in the Summer League opener between the Trailblazers and the Warriors. Yang had the ball in his hands. His teammate DJ Carden was calling for a pass. But instead of, just giving it to him straight away, Yang was very patient. He pointed to where he wanted Carden to cut, and then he made the pass at the perfect timing, and Carden finished with a clean layup. So it wasn't like a flashy dunk or highlight reel move, but it just exactly showed how well Yang reads the game and sets up his teammates. I mean, physically, we know he's already shown why he's very, very special. We've talked about before about how he's huge wingspan and his crazy arm length and massive hands. And he's been using that size well on defense as he's already racked up several beautiful blocks in the Summer League games. But to me, having a strong body is just a starting point to the NBA because, the league isn't, lack of big, athletic, big man. What separates the good from great is having the mind to match that body. And I think Yang Hansen is already showing signs of that he's got both. So we also talked earlier about his mobility being a concern, but I'm quite surprised in a very positive way because his positioning so far has been very solid and he's looked very comfortable in pick and rolls situations. He's not the quickest guy on the floor, but he makes up for it with his timing and smart decisions on the court.
Right. If you take a look at the highlights of his game in the Summer League so far, there are moments where he looks like a real commander on the court, directs the traffic of his teammates and dish out fine assists. But I think one area most fans would neglect would be his solid screens he set for his teammates. There are moments his teammates used his screens to make easy three-pointers. You don't see that from stats because he did nothing statistics-wise.
It's off the camera, off the charts.
That's only when you truly look into the game, you will find out, okay, that's a beautiful screen he set there. Brandon, is there any specific play or moment from Yang Hansen really impressed you in NBA Summer League games so far?
Yeah, definitely. I think, there was one sequence that was touched on. There was, a moment where he executed a perfectly timed one-touch bounce pass, threading two defenders that led to a dunk. And I think that's something that's been, discussed quite heavily. But I mean, I think something that's been interesting to see from, what we've seen from the Summer League performances so far is that, and I think this is something that's promising for him. Of course, we know that, his two-way ability for a 7-footer is quite unique. His abilities on offense and defense are really, really exciting for someone as big as him. And the fact that he's been able to show incredible timing and vision and understanding of this high level of basketball while being such an early entry, and such a new kind of personality and athlete in this level of competition. And of course, with all of the language barriers and being away from home and all of that sort of thing, the kind of remarkable maturity and understanding of the game that he's already shown has been really, really remarkable. And I think he definitely has the spotlight on him now. But once you have that, and when people are watching you, you can't just be a flash in the pan. You need to be consistent. And I think what's been great for Hansen is that he's been able to thrive in that spotlight and show remarkable consistency. I think his points per game, his rebounds and assists, even in these early stages, I think have been truly impressive. And I think what's going to excite some of the management in his team is that yes, he is able to deliver wow moments, and he seems to have an understanding of the game, and he seems to be gelling with his teammates very early on. But more importantly, than just being able to integrate into the team and become someone that understands the way your team plays, how your teammates play, understands direction from the coaches. As an individual, you can also be somebody that delivers the stats and high-level performances on a consistent basis, and he's definitely doing that already so far.
Right. With each NBA Summer League game, I think there's different shining points from Yang Hansen, but more importantly, he's shown his consistency on the court. He can put up consistent numbers. I think that's the foundation for his survival in the NBA games. But there's one moment that really stood out for me when Yang Hansen was shoved very hard by his opponent in, I forgot it's game 1 or game 2 of the Summer League, in a very obvious provocation act. And Yang Hansen was very calm and laughed it through. That moment really stood out for me because he definitely showed the chill and confidence I hadn't seen from older generation Chinese players when they entered the league. I mean, when Yao Ming and Yi Jianlian landed the NBA, they looked so serious and sometimes even rigid. But Yang is different. I noticed he always wears a T-shirt with the words "Handsome Yang" on it. It's so cool. And when journalists asked him, "What's your biggest hobby? Let's know more about you," he said, "It's sleeping." And he said,
PS5,
and he said, since Portland rains a lot, it's a perfect place for his hobby. So I like that attitude. But back to his on-court performance, Tianyu, let's go beyond the summer leagues and look at the new NBA season. Looking at the Portland Trailblazers roster construction, do you think it's an ideal landing spot for Yang Hansen in his rookie season? Is it somewhere he can back success someday in the future?
Yeah, I would say so. I think Portland is actually a very good landing spot for Yang Hansen in his rookie season because, first of all, I mean, the team actually values him. And it's very clear because they didn't draft him with their original pick. They actually, made a move to get him because Portland actually had the 11th pick and selected Cedric Howard. But then they turn around and trade his rights to Memphis just to get Yang. And that kind of move just shows how they see Yang as a very important part in their future plan. And there was actually some talk at first around whether Yang would face too much competition in the Portland squad. Because, Portland had already had 4 centers before he joined in. But with DeAndre Ayton being traded to the Lakers and also Robert Williams III, constantly bothered with injuries and potentially on the trade block himself, I think the picture has changed for Yang, and that opens up many opportunities for him to get solid minutes in the new season. And even with the addition of, the center Donovan McClingan, I don't think it's a problem with Yang because Klingon is more like a classic rim protector for the team as he anchors the defense. But for Yang, on the other hand, it's more like a playmaker for Portland, because he operates more from the high post, help facilitate defense, and creates plays with his vision and passing. They are very different kind of players, I would say, and because of that, I think they can actually complement each other very well. And in today's NBA, we are seeing, teams experiment with playing two bigs together, like the Timberwolves, and that worked out better than many expected. And so I wouldn't be too much concerned about Yang's playing time, because there's room for both of them, either as a rotation or even on the court together in the right matchup. And as for chemistry between Yang and other teammates, I think Yang's passing skills can bring an instant boost to Portland offense, because he's not just a scorer or a big body in the paint, he's a connector. That's going to help teammates who move well off the ball. And look at Portland's squad. Guys like Danny Avdija, they're not like ball-dominant players. And instead, they thrive in systems where, there's good movement or quick passing. So I think Yang's coming will, just provide a boost to their offense and firepower. So overall, I think, Portland's a good fit for Yang, not just because of the roster moves, but because of his unique playing ability. Just brings something totally different to the table, and it gives the Blazers more tactical flexibility, and I can see him developing strong chemistry with this group over time.
I think since Damian Lillard left the Trailblazers, they really have built this culture of sharing the ball on the court. And that makes could make Yang Hansen the new Jokic within the squad. But talking about Jokic, many compare him with Yang Hansen. But the question here, I think, is apart from being a playmaker, Jokic is also known for his scoring skills, like making jump shots and post-up plays. That is the part which is kind of missing and lacking in Yang Hansen's game now. But I could tell Yang Hansen's got potential in making shots, even threes. Definitely. In Game 3 of the Summer League, he made 3 triples, impressive. And he's got potential to, use his footwork to score under the rim. I mean, he's young, and time is on his side to grow into a real weapon.
Yeah.
And meantime, if we think about it, Jokic didn't dominate in his rookie season. It took him like several years to grow into what he's now. Yeah. So I think it's too soon to judge that Yang Hansen couldn't be the next Jokic. And I agree that Portland is an ideal landing spot for Yang Hansen, because if we take a look at their roster, their point guards, Drew Holiday, who is not known for being a playmaker, but more of a defensive leader on the squad. So their real playmaker in the starting lineup might be Avdija, as you mentioned. But on the bench, Yang Hansen might be the only playmaker. That will earn him consistent minutes in the NBA games, I think. And using those invaluable minutes, I think that's when Yang Hansen could really fine-tune his skill sets in other areas, like individual scoring, to go to the next level. That's the path Jokic took to become an all-star. And I think Yang Hansen can also create his own path, like Jokic's. The Trailblazers have said that they would like to see Yang Hansen complete the Summer League games, so we might see more surprises from Yang Hansen's game.
Definitely.
All right, before we move on, here's a quick review of the biggest sports headlines in the past week in China and around the world. Cole Palmer produced a dazzling first-half display as Chelsea stunned Paris Saint-Germain 3-0 to win the inaugural expanded Club World Cup at New Jersey's MetLife Stadium. The 22-year-old midfielder scored twice and assisted João Pedro, dismantling the Champions League winner in just 45 minutes. Yannick Sinner has claimed his first Wimbledon crown with a 4-set victory over Carlos Alcaraz in a high-energy final, avenging last month's French Open loss and capturing his 4th Grand Slam title.
Yes, I would say mostly emotionally, because I had a very tough loss in Paris, so But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how you win or you lose. Especially important tournaments, you just have to understand what you did wrong, trying to work on that. That's exactly what we did. We tried to accept the loss and just kept working. And And this is for sure one of the reasons why I hold this trophy here.
Sinner's triumph also snapped a 5-match losing streak to Alcaraz. In table tennis, world champion Wang Chuqin swept Japan's Tomokazu Harimoto 4-0 to win the men's singles gold at WTT US Smash in Las Vegas.
还是非常开心能获得这一站大满贯的单打冠军。
I'm still really happy to win the title at the stop. There are still many issues and areas where I can improve. I definitely need to take time to reflect on that. At the beginning, I didn't feel comfortable with the table or the venue, but gradually things got better, and that's something I can take pride in.
In the women's final, Zhu Yulin from the Macau region edged China's Chen Yi 4-2. Luka Modric has officially joined AC Milan on a 1-year deal with an option to extend until June 2027. The 39-year-old Croatian midfielder will wear the number 14 shirt at Milan, previously worn during his time at Tottenham. China wrapped up its campaign in third place at East Asian Cup in South Korea after defeating Team Hong Kong 1-0. Wang Zhengyu got the only goal of the game to give caretaker boss Dejan Djurjevic his first win. Reports suggested the Chinese Football Association has started to look for a new permanent coach. Organizers from the Milan Cortina Winter Olympics and Paralympics have unveiled medal designs for next year's events. Organizing committee president Giovanni Malogo described the medals as elegant and classic.
A low-profile medal, but at the same time it's really, really elegant. Classic, and the idea of these two halves, yes, connected each other with, of course, the symbol of the games, Olympic and Paralympic.
The medals have the traditional Olympic 5-ring symbol on one side with an inscription that details the event and commemorates the main venue on the other side.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
Welcome back. Let's now shift the gear and look at the NBA offseason. A lot has happened in the past month, including the biggest trade in NBA history involving as many as 7 teams. And NBA champions, the OKC, have extended their new big threes with 3 big contracts.
Yeah.
And there are still some free agents that haven't signed contracts yet, like Damian Lillard, who was shockingly waived by Milwaukee, like Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul, Al Horford, and these veterans. But Tianyu, looking at what has been done already, who do you think did the best business and who did the worst business in the offseason so far?
Well, as for winners, what stand out to me the most must be the Houston Rockets. I mean, getting Kevin Durant alone was a massive move.
At whatever cost.
Yeah, because it just raised their ceiling right away. But what also impressed me a lot for them was like they didn't stop there. They brought in guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, Clint Capella, and made some smart re-signings to keep their depth intact. And besides that, they also handle the cap really well.
Yeah.
Now they've got a mix of youth and experience, shooting, size, and defense.
Athleticism.
Yeah, athleticism. Even though there are still a few question marks, like whether Van Fleet would continue to hold up.
But he signed a smaller contract.
Yeah, but there's still a question mark over his consistency. But overall, I think the Houston Rockets looks like a team that can compete against the strongest title contenders like OKC and make some real noise in the West. But as for losers, I've got to mention the Lakers. Because, trading for Luka Doncic last season was a bold move, but they just failed to build properly around Doncic. Losing Anthony Davis is already in that deal left a huge hole at center. And their plan was to, fix it by trying to sign Mark Williams, but the plan just fell apart after his physical. And their backup plan is signing DeAndre Ayton, who I think just didn't feel like the right fit because he's not a rim protector and he's not a stretch big and he just doesn't feel like, moving the needle in years. So I think now they have got a very unbalanced squad. Too many power forwards and no trustworthy centers and limited flexibility. So I think for a team trying to, keep LeBron satisfied and, just convince Luka to stay long term, I think this offseason just left more questions than answers for Lakers.
All right. Brandon, the best traders and the worst traders so far?
Look, I have to agree with Tianyu here. I think that what's been happening at the Lakers has been a little bit concerning, and I think that when you've got such iconic talents, generational talents within your organization, I think you have to do everything you possibly can to protect them. But at the same time, I think being able financially to bring in the same level sort of, protection and players that can kind of boost these two superstars, I think, financially that must be a bit of a headache. So I don't know, what kind of excuse the Lakers can give there. But away from that, some of the negotiations that we've seen have been a little bit concerning. But I think something that should be exciting for LA Lakers fans is that there's been a lot of images, circulating on social media of a very lean and a very trim Luka Doncic. I mean, I've never seen him look so athletic and so, beach season ready, let's call it, for the beautiful beaches of Los Angeles. But I mean, he really is looking incredibly slim and incredibly determined. And I think we're going to see an even more phenomenal version of Luka Doncic in the NBA this season, which I think is going to be frightening for other teams. So maybe the Lakers were thinking, hey, we don't have to spend too much money because we've got Luka 2.0. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see. But away from that, I think, of course, having a generational talents in Kevin Durant joining your organization, I think that's also going to be incredibly exciting for Houston. And I think that, again, in a similar bracket to someone like LeBron James, someone that's reaching the latter stages of their career and hoping to add, another ring to their collection and, trying to also at the same time boost a kind of mid-level organization to the next level. I think having someone like that within your squad is going to be very exciting. And the way that they deal with that and try and utilize him to the best of their abilities is also going to be very interesting to watch as the season progresses. But crucially, I think OKC rewarding their big three and locking them down for the foreseeable future and, identifying and rewarding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in particular for being, the best player in the NBA right now and just being a leading star and, kind of the next face of what the NBA is going to produce over the next couple of seasons. I think that's incredibly important and brave of OKC to do that. And I think that they now have the building blocks to potentially, get a kind of dynasty together that we've seen from certain other organizations in recent times. The most recent one that I can think of is, I guess, the Warriors, what they were able to do over a couple of seasons. And I'm assuming that that is something that OKC is going to want to continue going into the future. So I think that, of course, there's still a couple of things that kind of can happen in, crazy off-season deals. But I think as things progress, we definitely are going to be keeping our eyes on OKC and if they can kind of maintain what they were able to do this past season going into the future. And I think there's definitely, not a lot, but I think there's definitely some doubting voices within the NBA that, kind of think that potentially OKC were kind of a flash in the pan. And, with the strengthening of other organizations, I think there's definitely some doubts about whether or not a dynasty can kind of be built in that area of the world. But I think that, I think the way that they've kind of handled going into the next season so far has been very promising.
Yeah, credits must be given to OKC management because not many defending champions can maintain their squad like the Celtics. They almost fell apart last season with so many big contracts to sign. And I think the Golden State Warriors actually should be the worst traders. They literally did nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, LA, they signed DeAndre Ayton, and as Brandon mentioned, they might be upgraded into the next level with the evolution of Luka Doncic. But Golden State, they literally did nothing this offseason. They even lost Kevon Looney, so I don't expect them to go very well next season. And actually, I think the Denver Nuggets should be the most successful team this offseason. Many fans missed that fact that they actually acquired Cameron Johnson.
Yeah.
They acquired Valanciunas, Tim Hardaway Jr. And returnee Bruce Brown Jr. to the squad. I think they should be one of the biggest title contenders for next season. And Dallas Mavericks actually also got a quite deep squad after acquiring the number 1 draft pick, Cooper Flag, and D'Angelo Russell. So lots of big trades. So we now have a lot of big teams now. Tianyu, which team do you think is becoming the most competitive force heading into next season's NBA?
Well, I completely agree with you. Houston Rockets, first of all, finally has a true number 1 option in Kevin Durant, and they've built a very deep and well-balanced roster around him. So I think, I would say they're a serious finals contender. And then Denver Nuggets, they definitely still have the best player in the NBA in the world is in Jokic, and they like you said, they upgraded their squad depth, added more shooting with Tim Hardaway Jr. and brought in Cam Johnson to replace Michael Porter Jr. So I think we might see the deepest Nuggets team since their 2023 title run. So I think both the Nuggets and the Rockets should be in the mix for the next season's title race.
Right. Brandon, who's lifting the trophy next season?
Oh gosh, I think if we've looking at last season's performances, and I think the tying down and the rewarding of the big 3 at OKC, I think they have to be looked at as I guess the title favorites. But again, the talent that's been brought in to support Nikola Jokic at Denver, I think that's incredibly exciting. And then maybe a couple of sleepers in Boston or potentially in LA with a trimmed down Luka Doncic. Things are looking incredibly exciting and potentially very competitive this season. And I think we're going to see even more competitiveness in this season compared to last. So I think there's a lot of exciting things to look forward to. But in terms of lifting the title, I think at the moment, I was putting my money on OKC, but wow, I think you guys reminded me about the talent that's coming into Denver. And I think the Nuggets are looking incredibly strong too. So let's see if we could potentially see the Joker lift the championship yet again.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see how the big trades in the offseason will impact NBA dynamics and how Yang Hansen will play out his rookie season with Portland Trail Blazers. With that, we end this episode of Sideline Story. Thank you so much for joining us. Subscribe to Sideline Story and leave your comments wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, you can also check our website at radio.cgtn.com. Until next time, stay on the sidelines with us.